June of 2026. But political parties are running out of patience. They are taking their complaints to the streets. This week, members of the BNP protested. Now, the BNP is the Bangladesh Nationalist Party. It held a public demonstration in Dhaka this week. The spark was over a mayoral election. And the BNP's mayoral candidate, Ishraq Hussain, and he contested the polls in 2020. Now, this was a disputed election. But recently, a tribunal declared Hussain as the winner. The Election Commission backed that ruling. But the interim government refused to act. Now the BNP is alleging it's a cover-up, and they're calling for resignations, including of Yunus's top advisers. 2 days ago, thousands marched in Dhaka. Hussain joined them. He demanded that power be handed over. He demanded accountability from a caretaker government that promised neutrality. They accuse them of political bias. It's not just the political parties that are raising questions. Rights groups as well have slammed the Yunus regime. This is over a controversial decision, the decision to ban the Awami League. Now that's the party of Sheikh Hasina. A rights watchdog called the ban arbitrary. Supporters of Hasina's party say that they are being silenced. This decision fits into a wider pattern. Under his leadership, Bangladesh silenced Sheikh Hasina's party, and they lifted a ban on the Jamaat-e-Islami, an Islamist party, and they were outlawed for radicalism. But they are now part of the mainstream. While Hindus in Bangladesh have been targeted, so what has Yunus managed to achieve so far as the chief advisor of Bangladesh? Has he managed to deliver on his promises? He was never elected to the post. He was brought in after a mass uprising. His role was to stabilize the country and to push constitutional reforms. But a year later, there's little reform and even less stability. Yunus has spent more time on foreign policy than fixing the domestic political crisis. The military is restless. The protests have resumed. Bangladesh is looking for direction, and Muhammad Yunus is running out of time to provide one. So Bangladesh is in turmoil. But what does that mean for India? It's a 50-50 situation. On the one hand, relations with the Yunus regime are spiraling. They are very close to rock bottom. On the other, the prospect of elections is good, because a new regime could offer India a reset. Let's look at the current status first. Last month, Bangladesh restricted rice and yarn exports from India. A lot of this trade happened over land ports, but Dhaka decided to stop it. And this month, India retaliated. New Delhi curbed the import of Bangladeshi garments through land ports. As you know, garments are a key export for Dhaka. It makes up around 11% of their GDP. India banned overland export of these garments, thus affecting 42% of the bilateral trade. Now that's worth $770 million. But this week, Dhaka targeted India again. They cancelled a shipping contract with an Indian firm. The contract was for building a towing and salvaging vessel. It was worth around $21 million. But this week, Dhaka cancelled it. Now, these are just some of the recent moves made by the Yunus regime. Since August last year, we've seen a lot more of them, like resetting ties with Pakistan, signing multiple deals with China, targeting minorities, especially Hindus, and cancelling agreements with India. In simple words, the Yunus regime has driven relations with India to a new low. And that's not surprising. Yunus is propped up by Bangladesh's Jamaat, which is a radical Islamist group. They have a history of undermining Indian interests. In fact, even Bangladesh's interests. The Jamaat helped Pakistan in 1971. They opposed the creation of Bangladesh. Many Jamaat leaders also aided the genocide of Bengalis. And we are seeing that ideology return to Dhaka. Yunus is erasing most symbols of the liberation war. He is also downplaying the role of India. So, like I said, bilateral ties are almost at rock bottom. You can only go up from here. And that's where the prospect of elections comes in. If they are held today, the BNP is widely expected to win. That's the Bangladesh Nationalist Party. They too have a history of undermining India's interests, but recently we have seen some changes. The Indian envoy has met the BNP leaders twice. The party has also criticized Yunus and has called for closer ties with India. It's not clear if we can call this a reset yet, but even if it is, it's not ideological. It's about strategy. China, Pakistan and the West are openly backing Yunus. Pakistan especially would love to see the Jamaat influence continue. So naturally, the BNP needs allies too. Maybe that explains this newfound closeness. Having said that, elections do not guarantee a reset. They only guarantee an opportunity, the chance for a fresh start. And as things stand, India will take that. New Delhi has repeatedly called for fresh elections.
As a democracy, India is naturally concerned at curtailment of democratic freedoms and shrinking political space. We strongly support the early holding of free, fair and inclusive elections in Bangladesh.
The ties with Bangladesh are crucial for India, perhaps now more than ever. After Operation Sindoor, India will be vigilant on the Western Front. And on the east, you have Chinese belligerents. So it's important for India to secure its border with Bangladesh, to have a favorable regime in Dhaka. Plus, a stable Bangladesh is in India's interest. We have already seen a rise in violent protests and mob incidents. If elections are delayed, things may worsen. And if that happens, where will people flee? Toward India. So what happens in Dhaka is very consequential to New Delhi. India has always said that its commitment lies with the people of Bangladesh, not one particular leader or regime. Yunus clearly does not understand that. Now, he is obsessed with Sheikh Hasina and her party. Let's hope a new regime would do better. Meanwhile, in Pakistan, Imran Khan is back in the news. The former Prime Minister took aim at his oldest rival, Field Marshal Asim Munir. Yes, the chief of Pakistan's army. He recently rewarded himself with a promotion. Imran Khan took an aim at Munir for that. He said, and I quote, "General Asim Munir has been made Field Marshal, though frankly it might have been more fitting to give him the title of King instead, because right now the country is ruled by the law of the jungle, and in the jungle there is only one king." It is a measured jab. Field Marshal isn't just a symbolic title. It is a statement of intent. Munir is only the second general in Pakistan's history to receive that rank. And he couldn't have timed the announcement better. For Imran Khan, this is a personal battle. He has a history with Asim Munir. When he was Prime Minister, Munir took charge of the ISI in 2018, Pakistan's powerful spy agency. This is where it all fell apart. Munir and Imran Khan reportedly had a confrontation. Munir accused Bushra Bibi of corruption. Bushra Bibi is Imran Khan's wife. Apparently, this made Imran Khan furious. So much so that he removed Munir from his post in 2019. The rivalry escalated from there. 3 years later, in 2022, Imran Khan was out of power and Shahbaz Sharif appointed Munir as army chief. It is widely believed it was Munir who had orchestrated the crackdown against Imran Khan and all of his loyalists. There was a massive purge. Khan's loyalists were forced out. His party was cracked open, and then came the final blow. Imran Khan was himself thrown in jail. Last year, Pakistan went to polls. Those elections were widely seen as rigged. But despite being in prison, support for Imran Khan remained strong. This has always been Munir's weak spot. Now, he managed to remove Imran Khan from power, but he couldn't remove Khan's support. Even from a prison cell, Khan's followers stood by him. They pointed fingers at the military, and they blamed one man in particular, General Asim Munir. Now, they called him the general who stole Imran Khan's mandate. But that narrative has started to shift. In the past few weeks, Munir has launched a new campaign. He's trying to rewrite the story. The conflict with India is now being marketed as a national victory, and Munir is being cast as the man who delivered it, the savior in uniform, and the face of a military trying to rebuild its image. Posters of Munir appeared nationwide. So-called victory rallies have been taken out in Pakistan, even though it was Pakistan that suffered heavy losses across the board. Experts say this is political theatre. Imran Khan is in jail, his supporters are facing military courts, and Munir is busy rebuilding his image as a national saviour, as a general who stood up to India. But the reality is messier. Pakistan is facing dire economic challenges. Cost of living still remains high. The country still needs bailouts to survive. And it's not just the economy. Pakistan is battling multiple fires from within. Insurgency is back in the northwest. Militants are launching attacks near the Afghan border. Separatists are stirring trouble in Balochistan. But Munir is focusing on optics. And Khan, from his prison cell, is pointing that out. However, it is difficult to say how effective his message is going to be. Despite his popularity, Imran Khan remains a leader in jail, in a country that is still under the grips of the military. In aviation, there's an unwritten code, one that's backed by actual international law. You do not mess with emergency requests. In a crisis, borders blur. The sky becomes one shared space. But Pakistan doesn't seem to understand that. Or maybe it just doesn't care. On Wednesday, an Indigo flight from Delhi to Srinagar encountered severe turbulence. Now, there were over 220 people on board. The crew requested access to Pakistan's airspace. Lahore denied this request. And finally, the flight landed safely in Srinagar, but it suffered heavy damage. Our next report tells you how Pakistan put the lives of 220 people at risk.
It was meant to be just another flight from Delhi to Srinagar. But what unfolded in the skies was anything but routine. On Wednesday, 220 passengers boarded Indigo flight 6E2142. Everything seemed smooth at first. But as the aircraft approached Pathankot in Punjab, it encountered turbulence. Cruising at around 36,000 feet, the plane was hit by thunder and a hailstorm. Videos from the flight show the horror unfolding. Seats shaking, passengers screaming, and people praying for their lives. Experiencing this turbulence, the pilot made a choice. He first contacted the Northern Control of the Indian Air Force. The flight asked for a deviation towards the India-Pakistan border. This request was denied. That's because Pakistan's airspace is closed to Indian flights. So then the flight contacted the Lahore Air Control directly. It sought permission to enter Pakistani airspace just to circumvent the storm ahead. This request was promptly denied. Pakistan said no. After the rejection, and with no other option, the crew tried to return to New Delhi. But even that wasn't feasible. The aircraft was very close to a thunderstorm cloud, so returning would have been dangerous. Thus, the flight continued on its path, encountering severe turbulence on the way. At one point, the aircraft's rate of descent was around 8,500 feet per minute. The autopilot was overridden. The crew had to take manual control of the flight. The pilot then declared an emergency to the Srinagar ATC. This Indigo flight landed in Srinagar at around 6:30 p.m. All passengers were safe, but the nose of the aircraft was severely damaged. Aviation is one of the few global systems built on cooperation. The International Civil Aviation Organization, or the ICAO, is a United Nations body. It lays down one fundamental principle: airspace, especially during emergencies, must remain accessible. Politics must not enter the cockpit. Yet, that's exactly what happened. Pakistan treated this like a chess match. The pilot was a pawn and the passengers collateral in this crisis. All because they are still sulking over India's counter-terror moves after the Pahalgam terror attack. In response, Pakistan closed its airspace to India. The ban was imposed for a month until May 23rd. That's because ICAO rules prevent a ban that's longer than a month. Islamabad is set to renew this ban, and this isn't new for them. In 1999, Pakistan closed its airspace for Indian flights after Kargil. In 2019, after India's Balakot airstrikes, Pakistan did the same. That ban lasted for nearly 5 months. But this incident, this single flight, exposes something much bigger. That when politics trumps principles, lives are put at risk. Indigo 6E2142 wasn't a strategic threat, it wasn't a military mission. It was a plane full of ordinary people, all hoping to get home safe. 220 people tossed around in a metal tube at 36,000 feet. They were deliberately thrown in harm's way because humanity took a back seat. Not because of nature, but because of a neighbor's narcissism.
The fighting between India and Pakistan is over. It's now over to the diplomats. India has begun a global outreach program. It is sending dozens of lawmakers to around 33 countries. The idea is to expose Pakistani terrorism on the global stage. 3 delegations have already reached their destinations, one in the UAE, another in Russia, and a third in Japan. Meanwhile, India's foreign minister is also on the job. S. Jaishankar is on a 3-nation trip to Europe. He is visiting the Netherlands, Denmark, and Germany. He is also speaking to local media and writing articles in local newspapers. Clearly, India's outreach is on overdrive. But is it working? And is it coming a bit too late? Our next report tells you.
India's diplomatic blitzkrieg is underway. 59 members of parliament, 7 delegations, 33 countries. One mission: to expose Pakistan-sponsored terrorism. These delegations are multi-party. They include MPs from the ruling BJP and the opposition. 3 of them have begun their trip. Yesterday, the first delegation reached the UAE, a key partner of India in the Gulf. The MPs met the UAE's Minister of Tolerance. They also held talks with defense and foreign affairs officials.
Our commitment toward India's national security is non-negotiable. India is a strategic partner. It's not only with the government, it's with the people, it's with the nation.
Another delegation arrived in Tokyo. First, they were briefed by the Indian ambassador. Then, the outreach began. The multi-party delegation spoke to Japanese think tanks. They also briefed a number of Japanese officials, including their foreign minister, former Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga, and other national security officials. In all these meetings, the message was clear: India has zero tolerance for terror. A third delegation is in Russia. Again, an old and trusted partner of India. The MPs met Russian senators and foreign policy officials. The Russian officials condemned the terror attack in Pahalgam. They also backed India's fight against terrorism. Afterwards, the MPs met Leonid Slutsky. He chairs the Russian Parliamentary Committee on International Affairs. So the delegations have hit the ground running. But they're not fighting alone. Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar is also on the job. He's visiting 3 countries in Europe: the Netherlands, Denmark, and Germany. He's already completed the first 2 stops. As we speak, Jaishankar is in Germany. In the Netherlands, he met the foreign minister, the defense minister, and the prime minister. The Dutch are a key weapons supplier to Pakistan, so the visit had added significance. While in the Netherlands, Jaishankar also spoke to the local media.
Suppose that there were large military centers in the middle of a city like Amsterdam where tens of thousands of people gathered for military training. Would you say that your government knows nothing about that? Of course not. We should not go along with the narrative that Pakistan does not know what is going on. The most notorious terrorists on the United Nations sanctions list are all in Pakistan. They operate in the big cities, in broad daylight.
In Denmark, Jaishankar met the foreign minister and prime minister. He thanked Denmark for its support against terrorism, which brings us to the last stop, Germany. Jaishankar met a group of German parliamentarians. He also met the newly appointed Chancellor, Friedrich Merz. These outreaches will shape India's narrative. We have won on the battlefield. It's now time to win the information war.
Moving on to the United States, the Trump administration has dealt a new blow to Harvard University. It can no longer enroll international students. Now, this is the latest in an escalating standoff between Donald Trump and America's elite universities. Harvard, in particular, is at the center of this fight, and the administration has struck where it hurts: Harvard's international students. Harvard has hit back by suing the Trump administration. But what does this mean? Can the Trump administration do this? What happens to the foreign students? Let's take a look. First, what does this mean? You see, the U.S. federal government controls who comes into the country. For college and universities, it has a huge database, the tracking of the enrollment of foreign students, and this is called the SEVIS, the Student and Exchange Visitor Information System. To access this database, universities need a certification, and this is issued by the Department of Homeland Security. So the DHS has now revoked this access to the SEVIS for Harvard. That means Harvard can't enroll any more foreign students.
I would argue is that we have an interest as a nation, as President Trump has spoken to quite often, that we have an interest as a nation for these universities that are supposed to be the gold standard to actually deliver people who are educated and can function in society and on campuses that encourage a learning environment as opposed to one of left-wing activism.
Second, why is Trump going after Harvard? To understand that, you have to understand Trump's relationship with elite institutions. He sees them as liberal breeding grounds, places where woke culture is allowed to flourish, and Harvard is the perfect symbol of that. The Trump administration frames this latest move as a crackdown on anti-Semitism. It's also cited China's Communist Party as a factor in Harvard's case. But critics argue it's a smokescreen. The demands for student protest footage, disciplinary records, and policy changes veer dangerously close to political retribution. And this isn't just about one school. Trump's administration has launched similar probes into other elite universities. Harvard just happened to fight back.
Very anti-Semitic when you take a look, whether it's Columbia, Harvard, Princeton. I don't know what's going on, but when you see how badly they've acted, and in other ways also.
Third, can Harvard challenge this? Harvard has already denied all of these allegations, calling the actions unlawful and retaliatory. But despite its $53 billion endowment, Harvard can't override the federal immigration apparatus. But the DHS has given Harvard a 72-hour window. It wants the university to comply with its demands. The DHS wants records of foreign students, and this includes any video or audio of their protest activity in the past 5 years. If Harvard complies, the certification will be restored. But Harvard has decided to challenge this. It is taking the Trump administration to court. But in the meantime, what happens to its foreign students? Harvard has around 6,800 foreign students. It makes up for 27% of its student body. 788 of them are from India. The majority of them are graduate students. The class of 2025, those who are graduating in a few weeks, will be allowed to do so. But those who are in the middle of courses may have to transfer to other universities, or else they risk losing legal status in the US. Not just that, these foreign students also contribute to research in crucial fields, especially like medicine, engineering, and AI. So this will impact Harvard's research capabilities. So what happens next? Now that depends on what Harvard decides to do. It is now planning to fight it out in court. Until then, a lot remains at risk, including hundreds of foreign students, millions in funding, and its global reputation as an open, world-class institution. No matter how this ends, the scars of this confrontation will remain. And so will the question, if even Harvard isn't safe, who is?
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
To my colleague Siddhant, who is more on this. Siddhant, so once again, the External Affairs Minister, what he said to the Dutch press, now what he's saying to the German press, is that twofold. Number one, that it was bilaterally arrived at between India and Pakistan. It had nothing to do with any third party. And more importantly, India is now drawing a new red line for terror, Pakistan-sponsored, Pakistan-inflicted terror, and that is that there will be cost and pain for the enemy to pay.
Well, absolutely, Zaka. And in fact, the more interesting development here is that there is an open endorsement which is coming from German Foreign Minister to India's right to defend its territory. In fact, just a short while back, this press briefing happened. And in fact, both foreign ministers addressed press in Germany. And there are 3 points which German Foreign Minister made, Zaka. One, that Germany condemned the terrorist attack on India. Number 2, Germany supported India's right to defend itself against terrorism. And number 3, advocated bilateral solution between India and Pakistan. Perhaps a big endorsement coming from Germany, Zaka, and especially at a time when, as you rightly pointed out, that there is a narrative which is being built that how world completely isolated India after Pahalgam attack, and perhaps there are countries like China, like Turkey, backing Pakistan openly, but when it comes to supporting India in its right to defend itself against terrorism, perhaps none of these countries came forward and issued a strong statement. But that is not the case, Zaka. In fact, German Foreign Minister gave a big endorsement to India's right to defend itself against terrorism. In fact, he also went on to say that on 7th of May, I beg your pardon, EMS Jaishankar said that on 7th of May, both foreign ministers spoke to each other. And at that point in time also, Germany condemned the terror attacks, and Germany extended support to India in its right to defend itself against terrorism. Having said that, Zaka, Germans were also in touch with French foreign ministry. In fact, German foreign minister said that on the very first day after Pahalgam attack, He spoke to French
All right.
foreign minister, perhaps to get the first-hand report. So to say this, that West has completely isolated India, none of the countries from the Western world, is coming forward to support India would be wrong. Perhaps a very big endorsement is coming, and this is for the first time on record. This endorsement is coming, that how Germany stood with India before Operation Sindoor, and perhaps again they have reiterated their position that they support India's right to defend itself against terrorism.
All right, Siddhant, we'll leave it at that. So the Indian foreign minister, he's on a 3-nation trip to the Netherlands, to Copenhagen, and of course to Germany. His latter half will conclude that trip to Germany, and where he has spoken to media and he has reiterated the message that India and Pakistan bilaterally arrived at the ceasefire. It has nothing to do with any third-party mediation.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
To my colleague Siddhant, who has more on this. Siddhant, so once again, the External Affairs Minister, what he said to the Dutch press, now what he's saying to the German press, is that twofold. Number one, that it was bilaterally arrived at between India and Pakistan. It had nothing to do with any third party. And more importantly, India is now drawing a new red line for terror. Pakistan-sponsored,
Vantage continues after a short break.
A meme coin with no utility, a dinner invitation with Donald Trump, and $148 million poured in just for access. This week, Trump hosted the top buyers of a cryptocurrency named after himself. The venue, his private golf club. The reward, access to the US president himself. But here's the twist. Before the dinner even began, about half of the invitees already dumped their coins. Some walked away with millions. The Trump family walked away with more. We are talking about millions of dollars in fees alone. Can a sitting US president earn money through a cryptocurrency that bears his name? Our next report explores.
$148 million for a dinner. That's how much investors spent to attend a black tie event at Donald Trump's private golf club. The entry ticket, a meme coin. It has no value. It gives no dividends. It has no utility. It's just a digital token called Trump. When it was unveiled in late April, the coin promised access to one thing: dinner with the man himself, US President Donald Trump. Trump's team promised 220 spots and a VIP reception to the top 25 buyers. No one knows how many of these spots were actually filled, but Trump lived up to the promise. He flew in Marine One to attend the dinner at his private golf club just outside Washington. Even when protests were on outside, inside, it was a different world. Ex-NBA star Lamar Odom was there, and so was Chinese crypto entrepreneur Justin Sun, who's currently facing a regulatory case in the United States. All the guests were vetted. They underwent background checks. The dinner itself was a celebration. But what exactly were they celebrating? There's no product, no project, no business plan. Just a meme coin with Donald Trump's face on it. But there's plenty of cash behind it. In all, investors spent $148 million to get to the dinner. The top 25 holders alone bought over $111 million worth of Trump meme coin. Many of them even dumped their purchase well before the dinner. Almost half of them sold all of their Trump meme coins. This includes 17 out of the 25 VIPs. So who's really winning here? Trump's family controls over 80% of the coin supply. Through various companies, they've already made over $320 million in fees. Just the dinner announcement pulled in $1.35 million more. And more than half of those who came were from outside the United States. This isn't just a political stunt, It's a global cash grab. And yet, Trump is everywhere. His name is on the coin. His face is on the website. He attended the event and met the top holders. But when asked about this connection, the White House dismissed it. They tried to label it as a personal engagement. They said his assets are in a blind trust. They said there's no ethics violation. But the question remains, if a coin with no value can buy dinner with the sitting president, what does that say about the future of politics? And what happens when a joke becomes the market? In this game, the coin isn't the scam, the system is.
Let's turn to West Asia now, where the rift between Israel and its Western allies is widening. Namely, 3 of them: the United Kingdom, Canada and France. Most Western capitals were already losing patience with Israel, but last week pushed them over the line. It all began with Benjamin Netanyahu's new war goal. He announced a new offensive in Gaza. The goal is to occupy all of the Strip, and this came amid an acute shortage of aid. In March, Israel imposed a blockade on the Gaza Strip. They claimed that Hamas was misusing the aid. As the supplies wound down, international pressure grew. Around 600,000 Gazans were facing famine. That's when the UK, Canada and France issued a joint statement. Let me quote parts of it. We strongly oppose the expansion of Israel's military operations in Gaza. The level of human suffering in Gaza is intolerable. If Israel does not cease the renewed military offensive and lift its restrictions on humanitarian aid, we will take further concrete actions in response. The statement came on the 19th of May. Since then, Israel has allowed some aid supplies. Around 100 trucks entered Gaza on Wednesday. Some of the bakeries have also reopened, but the truth is, 100 trucks are not enough. Experts say that at least 500 are needed every single day. Plus, the offensive continues. Israel has not stopped its operations in Gaza. In response, the UK has suspended trade talks with Israel. Both countries were eyeing a free trade deal, but the UK has paused it. Even Europe is mulling similar moves. Israel already has a free trade deal with the European Union, but the bloc has decided to review it. 17 of the 27 EU members voted for the review, and this is a significant move. Israel makes up to just 0.8% of the EU's trade, but the EU is Israel's largest trading partner. Now, they make up 32% of Israel's trade. More than 28% of their exports go to Europe. So if the deal is suspended, Israel will feel the pinch. And how is Israel responding? By lashing out at these Western countries. Netanyahu says France, the UK and Canada are on the wrong side of history.
I say to President Macron, Prime Minister Carney and Prime Minister Starmer, when mass murderers, rapists, baby killers and kidnappers thank you, you're on the wrong side of justice. You're on the wrong side of humanity. And you're on the wrong side of history.
Israel's foreign minister went further. This week, there was a horrible shooting incident in Washington. 2 Israeli embassy staffers were shot dead. The gunman was shouting, "Free Palestine," as he was arrested. Israel's foreign minister linked the shooting to European leaders. Listen to this.
Direct line connecting anti-Semitic and anti-Israeli incitement to this murder. This incitement is also done by leaders and officials of many countries and international organizations, especially from Europe. The words are the modern blood libels. These libels about genocide, crimes against humanity, and murdering babies paved the way exactly for such murders.
So Israel is blaming Europe, but the fact is, it's not just them. Even Israeli politicians have started speaking out. including a former prime minister.
I'm against the expansion of the military operations in Gaza. I think that they bring us close to crimes, because if there is no purpose and there is not a possible outcome that is worth the cost, then why should we continue?
I said this morning that we are a sane country that does not kill children. When ministers in this government celebrate the death and starvation of children, we must say so. Our mission is to ensure that Israel remains a sane country that does not kill children either as a hobby or as a policy.
The question is, will this stop the war? Well, a lot depends on US President Donald Trump. In the past, this has been the precedent. Israel escalates until the US leadership steps in. Once they do, we see a ceasefire. But this time, things have played out differently. The Hamas attack on October the 7th was brutal beyond imagination. Hence, Netanyahu had more leeway than usual. First, Joe Biden and then Donald Trump gave him a free hand. But it looks like that is changing. Last week, the US president visited 3 countries in West Asia, but he skipped Israel. It's being seen as a snub by some experts. If Trump exerts enough pressure, he can force Netanyahu to stop. Many Republicans have also joined in. They feel Israel has gone too far in Gaza. But if Trump doesn't, can Europe do the same? Politically, Europe doesn't have America's clout in Israel. What it does have is economic power. Some European officials have talked about a trade embargo on Israel. No export, no import, no services, no trade. Such a move could put pressure on Israel, but it's unlikely that EU countries will go that far. So, as things stand, the ball is in Trump's court.
Vantage continues after a short break.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
To my colleague Siddhant, who has more on this. Siddhant, so once again, the External Affairs Minister, what he said to the Dutch press, now what he's saying to the German press, is that twofold. Number one, that it was bilaterally arrived at between India and Pakistan. It had nothing to do with any third party. And more importantly, India is now drawing a new red line for terror, Pakistan-sponsored, Pakistan-inflicted terror, and that is that there will be cost and pain for the enemy to pay.
Well, absolutely, Zaka. And in fact, the more interesting development here is that there is an open endorsement which is coming from German Foreign Minister to India's right to defend its territory. In fact, just a short while back, this press briefing happened. And in fact, both foreign ministers addressed press in Germany. And there are 3 points which German Foreign Minister made, Zaka. One, that Germany condemned the terrorist attack on India. Number 2, Germany supported India's right to defend itself against terrorism. And number 3, advocated bilateral solution between India and Pakistan. Perhaps a big endorsement coming from Germany, Zaka, and especially at a time when, as you rightly pointed out, that there is a narrative which is being built that how world completely isolated India after Pahalgam attack, and perhaps there are countries like China, like Turkey, backing Pakistan openly, but when it comes to supporting India in its right to defend itself against terrorism, perhaps none of these countries came forward and issued a strong statement. But that is not the case, Saka. In fact, German Foreign Minister gave a big endorsement to India's right to defend itself against terrorism. In fact, he also went on to say that on 7th of May, I beg your pardon, EMS Jaishankar said that on 7th of May, both foreign ministers spoke to each other. And at that point in time also, Germany condemned the terror attacks, and Germany extended support to India in its right to defend itself against terrorism. Having said that, Zaka, Germans were also in touch with French foreign ministry. In fact, German foreign minister said that on the very first day after Pahalgam attack, he spoke to French foreign minister, perhaps to get the first-hand report. So to say this, that West has completely isolated India, none of the countries from the Western world, is coming forward to support India would be wrong. Perhaps a very big endorsement is coming, and this is for the first time on record. This endorsement is coming, that how Germany stood with India before Operation Sindoor, and perhaps again they have reiterated their position that they support India's right to defend itself against terrorism.
All right, Siddhant, we'll leave it at that. So the Indian Foreign Minister, he's on a 3-nation trip to the Netherlands, to Copenhagen, and of course to Germany. His latter half will conclude that trip to Germany, and where he has spoken to media and he has reiterated the message that India and Pakistan bilaterally arrived at the ceasefire. It has nothing to do with any third-party mediation.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
To my colleague Siddhant, who has more on this. Siddhant, so once again, the External Affairs Minister, what he said to the Dutch press, now what he's saying to the German press, is that twofold. Number one, that it was bilaterally arrived at between India and Pakistan. It had nothing to do with any third party. And more importantly, India...
Vantage continues after a short break.
And our last story tonight is about Jimmy Donaldson. If this doesn't ring a bell, we don't blame you. After all, Donaldson is better known as MrBeast. And if you don't live under a rock, you have definitely heard that name before. MrBeast is the world's biggest YouTube star, with 397 million subscribers. And now, he's a billionaire. He is the 8th youngest billionaire in the world. MrBeast shot to fame after counting to 100,000 on a YouTube video. So how did he get to where he is now? A YouTube star, a business mogul, and a billionaire. Our next report tells you.
The year was 2016. Jimmy Donaldson was just another shy 18-year-old. He had dropped out of college, gotten kicked out of his mother's house, and for the past 5 years, he'd been posting videos on YouTube without much traction. He didn't seem like someone who had the makings of a future celebrity billionaire. That is, until one of his videos went viral in 2017. Donaldson sat in a chair in his room. He counted to 100,000. It took him 40 hours, and suddenly he was an overnight star. He gained more followers, began to attract advertisers, started doing bigger stunts, and today he's MrBeast. He's the world's biggest YouTube star with 397 million subscribers. He has tens of millions of followers on TikTok and Instagram. He became the first person to reach 1 million followers on Meta's Threads app, earning a Guinness World Record and hitting the milestone even before CEO Mark Zuckerberg. And now, at the age of 27, MrBeast is a billionaire. He's the 8th youngest billionaire in the world. So what is behind this fortune? For starters, unsurprisingly, it's his YouTube channel, with funny, kind, creative and bizarre videos that have gained more than 80 billion views in total, including reading the dictionary, helping clean the ocean, putting 10 million Legos in a friend's house, and spending 50 hours buried alive. But here's the catch. MrBeast makes more money from his side hustles than from his actual videos. He has partnerships with brands. He holds a stake in a food delivery app. He has stakes in other creators' YouTube channels. He has a chocolate brand. He's involved in cryptocurrency companies, and he's made movies and TV series. But this journey is not without controversy. The recent scandal comes from Mexico. MrBeast shot a video in ancient Mayan cities where he was accused of using ancient archaeological sites to advertise his chocolate brand.
Those of us here know the importance of ancient archaeological sites, and we respect the fact that they don't let us in. But for the authorities to let outsiders somehow access these places by any means, well, it is frustrating that they let them in and they're not respecting our heritage.
And that's not all. MrBeast's game show released last year on Amazon's Prime Video. It was billed as the largest ever reality competition series. Several female contestants sued MrBeast's production company and Amazon over a culture of misogyny and sexism. And this hurt MrBeast's image on the internet as one of the nicest guys. He has carefully curated this over time. MrBeast promises to give all of his money away before dying. He also owns Beast Philanthropy, which is a non-profit initiative. It undertakes massive projects like planting trees, cleaning plastic waste, donating clothes to the vulnerable, and paying for 1,000 people to have eye surgery. Time and again, he's been criticized for making content out of his philanthropy. But this is the brand of MrBeast, where everything is content, good or bad. However you look at it, you can't ignore the staggering success of his absurdity.
Vantage continues after a short break.
Hello and welcome to the late night edition with me, Ayushman Singh Jamwal. Big breaking news coming in on the international front, where a US judge has now blocked the Trump administration from revoking Harvard